Welcome to 10-Minute Zuimonki. Dōgen also said, "What deserves the greatest attention in practicing the way is letting go of the deep-rooted attachments of the mind. When the body is properly aligned, the mind will naturally follow and become aligned as well. Above all, you should practice in accordance with the established forms and regulations. If you do so, the mind too will gradually adjust and transform itself." In Song China, it is customary for lay people to gather at the graves of their deceased parents and, as an expression of filial devotion, begin by merely imitating grief. Yet, after some time, genuine tears begin to flow. Practice is much the same. Even if at first you lack the mind that seeks awakening, by devoting yourself wholeheartedly to practice and giving yourself to the way, that mind will eventually arise of itself. As beginners on the path, you should simply devote yourselves to practice according to the customs of the community. Do not be in a hurry to master the essential points of the way or the examples left by the ancient masters. There will be time enough to study and understand such matters when you are living alone in the mountains or quietly hidden away in the midst of society. For now, if you practice together with the assembly, you will naturally come to realize the way. It is like boarding a boat without knowing how to steer or even where the voyage leads. Whether you understand it or not, if you entrust yourself to a skilled boatman, you will safely reach the opposite shore. In the same way, by practicing together with the assembly under the guidance of a good teacher, and by forgetting yourself, you will naturally become a person of the way. Those who practice the way must not abandon practice even after attaining realization, thinking that there is nothing beyond what they have already achieved. The way has no end. Even after realization, practice must continue. In this regard, it is worth recalling the circumstances under which the scholar-monk Ryosui met Master Mayoku. Today's passage contains a teaching that many find surprising. Dōgen says, "What deserves the greatest attention in practicing the way is letting go of the deep-rooted attachments of the mind." That sounds reasonable enough. After all, Buddhism is often described as a path of letting go. But then Dōgen says something unexpected. He does not tell us to begin by examining our attachments. He does not tell us to analyze the mind. He does not tell us to wait until we have purified ourselves. Instead, he says, when the body is properly aligned, the mind will naturally follow. In other words, begin with practice. Begin with the body. Begin with what you can actually do. This is a very different approach from what many of us are used to. We often think that action follows understanding. First, I must understand, then I will practice. First, I must develop the right attitude, then I will commit myself. First, I must become motivated, then I will begin. Dōgen turns this upside down. He says that often the opposite is true. Practice comes first. Understanding follows. Commitment follows. Transformation follows. To illustrate this point, Dōgen gives an unusual example. He says that in Song China, people would gather at the graves of their parents and begin by imitating grief. At first, the tears were not genuine. But after some time, genuine emotion would arise. Now, Dōgen is not encouraging hypocrisy. His point is something much simpler. Human beings are not divided into body and mind as neatly as we imagine. What we do shapes how we feel. The posture we assume influences our state of mind. The habits we cultivate influence our character. The actions we repeat eventually become part of who we are. Anyone who has practiced Zazen knows this. Many days we sit not because we feel inspired. We sit because it's time to sit. Some days the mind is restless, some days we feel tired, some days we would rather be doing something else. Yet we sit. And somehow over months and years, that simple act begins to transform us. Not because we forced transformation, not because we chased enlightenment, but because we continued practicing. This is exactly what Dōgen is pointing toward. He even says something that may sound shocking. Even if you lack the mind that seeks awakening, by practicing wholeheartedly, that mind will eventually arise. Think about it for a moment. Many people worry that they do not have enough aspiration. They worry that their motivation is weak. They worry that they are not sincere enough. Dōgen's response is remarkably encouraging. Do not wait for perfect aspiration. Practice. Do not wait for perfect understanding. Practice. Do not wait until you feel ready. Practice. The aspiration itself will grow through practice. Then Dōgen turns to life in the monastery. He advises beginners not to become obsessed with mastering all the teachings, doctrines, and subtle points of the tradition. Instead, he says they should simply practice together with the community. This too runs against our modern instincts. We live in an age that values information. When we encounter something new, our first impulse is often to research it, read more books, watch more videos, gather more information. There is nothing wrong with study. Dōgen himself was one of the greatest Buddhist scholars in Japanese history, but he knew that intellectual understanding alone is not enough. You cannot learn to swim by reading about swimming. You cannot learn music by studying musical theory alone. And you cannot learn the way solely through concepts. At some point you must enter the practice itself. Dōgen compares this to boarding a boat. Imagine that you know nothing about sailing, you don't know how to steer, you don't know even the route. Yet there is an experienced boatman. If you trust him and remain on the boat, you will eventually reach the other shore. This image captures something important about Zen practice. Practice is not always a matter of understanding every step. Sometimes it means trusting the process, trusting the forms, trusting the teacher, and trusting the community, and continuing to practice even when you do not yet see where it is leading. Finally, Dōgen ends with another important reminder. He says, "The way has no end." Even after realization, practice continues. This is one of Dōgen's most characteristic teachings. Many people imagine enlightenment as a finish line, a final achievement, a point at which practice is no longer necessary. Dōgen rejects this idea completely. Practice and realization are not separate, he says. Realization deepens practice. Practice deepens realization. The path does not end because life itself does not end until our final breath. There is always another opportunity to express wisdom, another opportunity to embody compassion, another opportunity to let go of self-centeredness, another opportunity to sit. Perhaps the central message of this passage is surprisingly simple. Do not wait to become the right kind of person before practicing. Practice is what makes us into the right kind of person. So if you find yourself wondering whether you are motivated enough, sincere enough, or advanced enough, Dōgen's advice is clear. Take your place in the boat, trust the practice, and keep going. Thank you for listening. Until next time.